What's up, guys? Chase for AXW here, and welcome to the third edition of the This Is Wrestling podcast. Alright, guys, and we are here with top Ring of Honor star Silas Young. How's it going today?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Very good. I'm very excited for this interview. So, recently you made your return to Ring of Honor after a broken leg. Now, when you broke your leg, did you feel like you were going to recover fast? Or, I just want to know your thoughts.
You know what? When it happened, it was in a match at Ring of Honor. It was here in Milwaukee, my hometown. And it was the main event. It was about 4 minutes into the match, and I had taken a hip toss into the guardrail, and immediately when I hit the guardrail, I knew something wasn't right. But I also knew that, like the old saying goes, the show must go on. And I knew that I had to kind of, tough it out and, give the fans what they paid for, So, I knew right away something was wrong. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew there was something wrong.
Oh, man, what a trooper. That was insane. So, going from that part of your career to the start, so where did you first discover wrestling?
I grew up in a family where I had 5 older brothers. All of them were wrestling fans. So, wrestling was on at our house as long as I can remember. So I guess you could say my family exposed me to wrestling.
Do you remember, like, a first match that you saw, or...
I think they were more NWA fans. As a kid, I was definitely a WWF fan. Big Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, stuff like that. But my older brothers were more NWA and stuff. So I think probably some like a Ric Flair match probably was something I remember from being a kid. I remember being really, really young, like running around in diapers and seeing NWA wrestling on is one of my earliest memories as a kid.
Oh, that had to be cool.
I can't pinpoint exactly who it was or what match it was.
Yeah, especially since you were so young. So do you have, like, a favorite match or rivalry that you watched during your childhood?
I wouldn't say a definite favorite. I watched a lot of wrestling as a kid, though. As a young kid, I was a big fan of, all the guys that you're supposed to be a fan of. I wasn't, I hear some guys say, like, when I was a kid, I really liked the heels or whatever. I was a good little wrestling fan. I liked all the good guys, the Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior. I remember, whenever SummerSlam or whatever that was, or WrestleMania, I can't remember which one, where Ultimate Warrior and Hogan wrestled. I remember a couple buddies from the neighborhood being over and us watching that and just thinking, like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, how are they doing this? Like, 2 good guys wrestling each other? Like, this is unheard of, man.
Yeah.
It's funny, nowadays, but at the time it was so, like, you don't do that. So, I guess I would say that match is probably something that really sticks out in my head a lot,
Yeah, and the thing with that match, too, is that, like, neither of them were that great technical wrestlers, but in that match, somehow their chemistry matched up, and it was actually a pretty good match.
Yeah, it was. I actually watched it not too long ago. I thought the same thing.
So was Ultimate Warrior, like, one of your favorites growing up, or more Hogan?
I would say more Hogan. I like Ultimate Warrior. He's a big jacked up dude, and his freaking promos were crazy intense. But I was more of a Hogan guy than an Ultimate Warrior guy, I think.
So, was there ever a point? What was the point that you decided that you wanted to become a wrestler?
I was about 19 or 20 years old. Was doing some bad things in my life. And I had a buddy who had just had maybe a couple months earlier finished training from wrestling school. And, he came over and he said, "Hey man, I'm gonna have this my first match in like I don't know, probably a couple weeks or whatever." And I bought a ticket to his show. And when I went there and I watched him, and my buddy, he's not wrestling anymore, but he wasn't a really super athletic guy, and he was doing pretty good. And I remember sitting there watching, going, "Man, you're not really doing anything productive with your life. You're kind of looking for something to do." And I was watching him, and it kind of clicked. I was like, "Man, maybe you should give this a try. Maybe this is something you have fun with. You loved wrestling growing up. Like, why not check it out?" And that was kind of like that was the moment that I decided this is what I'm going to do. I mean, I don't think I realized at the moment, like, hey, this is what I'm going to, try and build my life towards, but I was like, hey, this is something I should give a shot, something that seems like it'd be pretty cool, so.
So did you end up training where he did?
You know what? I did, there was a guy here, so I live in the Milwaukee area, and, but when I grew up more like about 20 minutes south of Green Bay. Green Bay is about 2 hours from Milwaukee. There was a independent group in Green Bay that was, running shows monthly. They were, I remember going to some of the shows and thinking like, oh, some of these guys are pretty good. There's a guy named Dino Bambino, around at the time. He was a really athletic guy. He was really good. I remember thinking like, that guy's really good. But my buddy wasn't wrestling for them. He had been trained by a different guy, closer to where we had both grown up. And so I had tried calling the place in Green Bay a few times and left messages. They never got back to me. And finally I ran into my buddy one day, and I told him, like, hey, I really want to give this wrestling training thing a try. He said, well, hey, as a matter of fact, we're having training camp tomorrow. Why don't you come check it out? So I did, and I went and started my training there. And I had actually did quite a bit of training, but at the time of doing the training, I kind of knew, like, these guys, I don't think they really know how to train properly. Like, I didn't think like I knew everything in the world, but I knew that what we were doing wasn't enough. And I had gotten hurt, and during the process of getting hurt, I decided to contact those guys in Green Bay again, and then I had talked to them, and they basically, kind of taught us how to put things together and why you do stuff and why it makes sense and stuff like that. So I have more to credit my training to a guy named Mike Mercury, who trained, a guy that was Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Anderson now, and a guy from my down the Milwaukee area named Angel Armani. So I kind of give more of my credit to those two guys for trainings. I feel like they taught me more.
Yeah, they taught you the psychology.
They taught me more and, helped me out more, whereas the guy that I first started with, his name was Chris Bassett, and he's I don't want to badmouth him, but he's a little messed up. He's definitely got, you know what I mean? You're around the wrestling business long enough, you meet some of these people, and it's like, oh man, why is it the wrestling business that attracts these weirdos? I mean, he was one of those guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, was your first day of training a real struggle, or like were you like athletically in shape enough to keep up with everybody?
Oh no, I was athletically in shape. Like growing up as a kid, I played lots of sports and stuff like that. Not necessarily a bunch of organized sports, but I played a lot of sports. I was in gymnastics as a kid from like 8 to 14, so I was pretty athletic. As a matter of fact, I remember like Dad had me teach you how to fall or take bumps or whatever, and afterwards the guy, like I said, he was kind of a weirdo. He got mad at my buddies that had brought me, and they're like, you've been training him outside of here, haven't you? And they're like, no, this is, he's a good athlete or whatever. So no, I picked up to it really fast, actually.
So is the gymnastics where you get your moonsault skills from?
Yeah, exactly. So, Ultimo Dragon did the headstand thing in the corner, and I remember watching that when I was training, and I was thinking, I can do something out of that. And then one day it just kind of came to me, and I was like, well, I guess you got to just give it a try,
Yeah, so you didn't pick that up recently? You've been doing that for a long time?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, off and on. Just depending on, if it fits or whatever in the match that we're doing, so.
Now, since you did shine in most areas, was there like a struggle that you had, like a certain maneuver that was really hard to get down, or a certain string?
It's funny you say that. I remember, I picked up stuff pretty good, but I remember one time we were doing this training camp down in here in Milwaukee, and like I said, there was a guy that I trained with named Angel Armani. He's very good, he's very good at, just understands people and psychology and whatnot, and he was trying to teach us. It was really simple, I hadn't been doing a lot, and he was teaching us to, tackle drop down hip toss, one of the most common spots you see in wrestling. And we were there for 2 hours. There was probably 6 or 7 of us, and we all kept messing it up. It seems so easy and breathing nowadays, but at the time, man, we just kept messing it up, and he was screaming at us. It was, looking back at it, it was pretty funny, but at the time I was like, wow, man, this is kind of the first time I ever met this guy. He's kind of a fucking asshole or whatever, but it was all for a good reason, all for learning. So
yeah, and the funny thing is,
to look at it now.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that our guest last week, Mikey Webb, actually said that was his hardest struggle as well. So I guess it's a common thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you do, in wrestling after you're doing it for a long time. You take for granted that it's not natural for a human being to do. So it's kind of funny, I guess.
Yeah. So how was your first match?
I think it was probably pretty terrible. I remember I did this thing where they you remember ECW, they used to have the rope boy that wiped off the ropes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a thing like that where they did this cheesy little angle where this guy came out and he was cutting his promo and I'm still there wiping off the ropes from the match before and says next guy that steps in this ring, I'm gonna kick the crap out of her or whatever. So there, me being a klutzy kid wiping the ropes, accidentally trips and falls through the ropes, and there you go. Now I got my first match.
Nice.
So yeah, it wasn't super well thought out, but it was what it was. I did a bunch of stuff in the match I probably shouldn't have, thinking oh man, all these flips and stuff, this is where it's at. And I think I did jump over, second rope, springboard moonsault, a Jericho moonsault. I did all this ridiculous stuff. We actually watched the tape a couple months ago. We were getting a good laugh out of it. So yeah, I guess we can say it was pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's good though. I mean, I feel like no one has that perfect first match. It's all a learning process.
Oh yeah, and plus, wrestling business is the type of thing where if you think you had a perfect match, you should just quit. There's no such thing,
Yeah, exactly. There's so much involved.
Exactly.
So how were you discovered by the WWE?
Just like most guys, sending tapes in or whatever, trying to get a name for yourself, trying to get a job. They were in Milwaukee. I got the chance to work with Val Venus at the time, and Val Venus was kind of a guy that was, he had been there a long time. He kind of knew his career, his push or whatever had, didn't really exist anymore. So he was one of those guys that was like, hey man, let's try and get you a job. And then, we talked and we went out there and we worked. We had our match, and I remember there was some stuff that he had changed up on the, we had talked about whatever, and then some stuff got changed up, and he was, really happy that everything was able to flow, and he put in a good word for me. So, they invited me to SmackDown the next night, and I think I did the SmackDown taping, or it might even been the ECW taping or whatever at the time. I think I worked The Miz on TV, and they liked it. They talked to me a little bit. Like I said, I got trained by the guy that trained Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Anderson, and I saw him, I kept in touch after I'd done those couple things, and I had a good name with him or whatever. And I was walking out one time after doing some extra work for him, and as I was leaving, I was walking by, and Johnny Ace was walking with, Mr. Kennedy, and he said, hey, Johnny, this is my buddy, Silas, you should give him a job. And he told me, he's like, you know what? We'll send you down to OVW for a week, and we'll give you an evaluation. So I went down, I did the week-long evaluation. They had me, work a handful of house shows that week that I was down there. And then about a month and a half later, not even a month and a half, a couple of weeks later, I got offered a developmental deal. And then in the process of, filling out all the paperwork, doing the drug testing, all the legal stuff, they closed OVW and basically called me the next day and said, we're not putting your contract through. So it was like, it's okay to laugh at it now. I was really upset when it happened, obviously. It's like, hey, we're going to give you your dream job, but now we're going to take it away because of nothing you did. So, it sucks.
That situation sounds terrible. I feel like, that happened to a lot of people, but for it to affect you had to be atrocious. Did you feel like there was another route to get there, right afterward? Did they, call you back and say, hey, we're going to try out a new developmental territory in Florida if you wanted to come down?
No, I even said to him at the time, I said, well, I know you guys got Florida. I have no problem. I'll move to Florida, I've got no issue with that. And they said, no, we're just, too much stuff going on right now. We're not putting any contracts through right now, no new contract. So, and then they even said to me, I said, well, still want to try and get a job there, like, what should I do? And they said, oh, just, stay in contact with us, maybe in a couple of months. And then, nothing really came out of it. And after a while, I just stopped pursuing it. And, it just kind of fell by the wayside, I guess, a little bit. After you call a few times and you just kind of get blown off, you're like, whatever. And then I realized, there's a lot of other games in town. There's other places to wrestle. There's other places to make money. And honestly, it seems like nowadays, if you want to get offered a developmental deal, you either have to be a former college football player or a model or a Olympic wrestler. Either that, or you need to really build a big name for yourself on the independent scene. And I think a place like Ring of Honor definitely does that for guys. It's definitely a work rate type of company. It's a company that people respect. It's kind of, Ring of Honor is kind of like synonymous with the fact that if you work there, you're not only good, but you're very, very good.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty cool.
I mean, and even some of the angles in Ring of Honor are better than those on TV. And, like, you started, like, getting big in Ring of Honor around, like, the 2012, 2013 mark. So what was, like, your inspiration for the Last Real Man gimmick?
I guess the Last Real Man gimmick it's a little bit of me and it's a little bit of my father. My dad was, my father is about 70-some years old right now, so he's an old-school guy. He's kind of a no-nonsense type of guy. He had 6 sons, who were all kind of got in trouble a little bit. So he's kind of by the time I came around, he was kind of a no-bullshit type of guy. And nowadays, I see so many guys doing stuff in wrestling that, honestly, 30 years ago, men wouldn't have done. And that's basically what it is. Is the things nowadays that's acceptable by society for men to act, it just makes me shake my head. And that's basically the essence of what the Last Real Man is. So
when you're making your public Silas announcements, do you talk to your dad beforehand to get some ideas on what to say?
No, nothing like that at all. But just growing up with him. I mean, even as a kid, like my friends will laugh now. My dad was a real hard ass. As a kid growing up, where we joke about it now, it's funny. But at the time, like, people were scared, shitless of my dad. He had a couple times smacked a couple of my older brother's smart-most friends who mouthed off to him because he was, like I said, he was a no bullshit type of guy. So that's where I find a lot of my inspiration from. A lot of people think the mustache has something to do with Stan Hansen, or that I wear it because it's kitschy. My father had the same mustache and the same hairstyle. It's a tribute to him.
Oh, that's really nice that you do that.
Yeah.
And so those really made you popular. I mean, they brought you on the map. They put you over the top. They made you not only an incredible wrestler, but a full-around superstar. So,
right.
Do you really enjoy doing those?
Oh, I love it, man. I've said it to a few people. I've been wrestling for about 12, 13 years. I feel like I'm very talented. I feel like I'm definitely entertaining. I feel like I'm a guy that on every show I'm on, it's going to be a match that people remember. That I feel like it's what I've been truly been born to do is, the wrestling business. And I'm sorry, ask me that question one more time. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second.
Oh, I was just saying, do you really enjoy those? Because, I mean, they're gaining you a lot of popularity.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Let me get back to that again. Okay, so I really enjoy what I do. I've been doing it for 13 years, but I got to say, the last few months being off and being hurt has made me appreciate what wrestling has given me so much. I mean, wrestling is the reason that I live in Milwaukee. Wrestling is the reason that I have a small little business, personal training that I do for my own. Personal trainer. I'm not personal training. Wrestling is the reason I met my wife. So I've really learned over these last few months to be super appreciative of everything wrestling has given me, and it's really just made me want to just work harder and be better at it. Be better at every aspect of it, everything I do.
Yeah, I mean,
and I very much enjoy. I really enjoy doing the. I enjoy sometimes. Sometimes I enjoy the talking stuff more than the wrestling stuff. With wrestling, because it's fun. It's different. You know, you can get people to pay attention to what you're saying. It speaks a lot about you.
yeah, it definitely does. And how was it like being selected as one of Kevin Steen's last opponents on the Indies? That had to be great.
You know what? I thought that was pretty cool. I was actually the only guy that beat Kevin Steen in his last string of matches at Ring of Honor 2. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it said a lot about what Ring of Honor thinks of me, what Kevin Steen thinks about me. Because he didn't have to do that. He was definitely in a position where he could have said, no, I want to work with Stone Store, I want to work with my buddies, or whatever it is. Not that me and Kevin don't get along. It's just I haven't known him that long. I don't know him that well or anything, but he's a good guy. He's professional, and I really appreciate it. I thought it definitely it did a lot more for me than it did for him.
Yeah, I mean, and then it led into you getting a championship match against Michael Elgin, so I mean, they were really pushing you hard, so the time that you got your injury was like at the peak of your career.
It was the worst, man. It was the worst. I'll give you that. But like I said, at first it sucked. It is what I do for a big chunk of my income. It hurt being off these last few months. And I get there and find out that I'm doing the main event, and anybody that has been around wrestling or whatever knows that you're in the main event, you gotta work hard. You're probably gonna be going for 15, 20 minutes. I was really worried about having to be out there sucking wind, losing my breath basically, because even with getting back in the gym the last few months and working out really hard, there's no training you can do that simulates the effects of what a wrestling match does to you, or the conditioning you need for a wrestling match. But I was really happy. It didn't even come close to losing my limb. The match was awesome. I got to be that dickhead that I love being in the ring, and got great crowd reaction, and I was really, really happy with it.
So,
and luckily, and most important, the knee held up, and that's what I was mostly worried about.
Yeah, so has Ring of Honor contacted you that they want you to return?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely returning. I believe my return will be March 13th here in Milwaukee. And then I'm thinking, before I got hurt, I was on basically every show, and I'm thinking I would be making a full-time return,
Yeah, I mean, so what is your goal? What are your goals, being Ring of Honor champion?
Of course. I've said to a few people, I don't want to just get back to wrestling. I don't want to just get back to having great matches or, being on a bunch of shows. I want to get back. I feel like, I'm to a point where I need to start, making some good conscious decisions to do the best for what I can do for myself, personally, professionally, and, everything. And being a champion is where it's at, Being a champion is what gets you noticed. Being a champion means you're the best. Being a champion means the company has faith in you. And like I said, on every show that I'm on, I know that I'm one of the best guys. I know that I'm entertaining. I know that the fans are enjoying it. And I know that it's not going to be a stinker. So my goal is not to just come back and help you and be awesome. Actually, to come back and it's, to be, I hate using the term best in the world or the best wrestler because it's such a subjective thing. But when you have the world title on your waist, it means you are the best. So that's what I want. I want the world title. I want the TV title. I want exposure. I want to be able to go out. I want to wrestle in Japan. I want to wrestle in Europe. I want to wrestle all over the world. And that's what all us guys aspire to do. And I feel like that this is my year to do it.
Yeah, rebound years are always amazing. So that was a great way to end it. Thank you so much.
No problem. I appreciate you having me here, man.
Best of luck to you in your return. Also, you guys better wish Silas a great return in the comments below. Also, like this video and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys on the next episode. And our guest is ODB. So I'll see you guys. Peace.